We believe that in all organizations, all companies today, we do so many important things in the form of microsystems and that are dependent on collective intelligence in groups. Group needs to feel warm. If a group doesn't feel warm, you can say that literally you're closing down access to knowledge in the group, because that's how the human brain works. But as we measure this, we can see that this happens, but it doesn't really reach the brain. And what have we then? Well, we have actually nothing, right? We need to understand teamwork as a skill. And it should be natural to any team, any microsystem, whether it's doctors and nurses working together, whether they're developing the new retirement system, or they're managing a corporation. They need to understand that they do not automatically become collectively intelligent. It's something you have to work on. So I'm here today to talk about collective intelligence. But actually, we're going to start to talk about it as teamwork. Have you thought about how important teams and teamwork is for us today? We have teams all over. Teams, making critical decisions for all of us. Now, okay, so how does it look today? Let's look at one thing. If you think about it this way, if you're going to be intelligent in a group, it means that you're going to have to talk to each other, exchange ideas, listen and so on. So in this process of sort of creating intelligence, listening would be quite an important thing, right? Now let's look at how things are today. If we take any organization, you could say that during one day in this organization, they would have probably thousands of moments of cooperation. These moments of cooperation, we call them microsystem. It could be teams, but it could just be people, trying to coordinate the thing also. And these moments of, microsystems where people try to cooperate, suppose you think of an organization in that way, it would be like having, hundreds or thousands of these moments lasting from, maybe just a minute or a phone call or hours of meeting. But that's a way of looking at organization and understanding, the sort of how things are actually created in an organization. Now, suppose we could look at these organizations and just, we would assume that from these thousands of microsystems, some of them would be really good. They would be really collectively intelligent, just by random. Few of them would probably be really bad, lousy, and most of them would be sort of average, right? So that's a way of looking at organization. And we know today from studies of management teams that if you take the average third here, the low-performing management teams, and compare that to the average of these high-performing management teams, the difference in listening is 1,500%. That's a lot. It means that in these teams, for some reason, they listen to each other 15 times as much as in these. And today, we just let that happen. But then you could ask yourself, listening, that's kind of obvious that it's important. So how come that these teams don't listen as much as those, right? Well, that's not because they're bad people. It's not because, they have worse monetary incentives. It's not because they have less experience. And it's not because they are less intelligent as individuals. We can't see any pattern like that. Instead, the simple explanation is actually this. They don't know that they're not listening to each other. And why don't they know that? Well, because we've never been taught how to listen. We've never seen listening as, a problem. We think that hearing is the same thing as listening, but it's not. Look at this simple illustration. Fundamentally, when people are working together, this is what we want. We want someone with, information, experience, or knowledge, or whatever. It's in their brains, right? This person needs to find some way of communicating this to the others in the team, right? already in this stage, we can be, have different skills in that. How to translate what you're actually thinking into words or something written. We can have different skills in that. But now this, whatever it is, this knowledge is transported through air here and reach this ear. The next step we want, of course, is for this knowledge to go in here and be processed with this brain. But as we measure this, we can see that this happens, but it doesn't really reach the brain. And what have we then? Well, we have actually nothing, right? Because if that information is not used by that person, that was just, a short period of warming up the air with the breath, right? So listening is, of course, essential to creating collective intelligence. But even now, if these teams were to know that they're not listening very well to each other, they wouldn't normally know what to do about it, because that's the next thing. We don't teach people teamwork. If you think about it, in school today, we let kids work in teams, but we don't really teach them what teamwork is. So that's our whole point here, or what I'm trying to say here tonight, is the fact that we need to understand teamwork as a skill. And it should be natural to any team, any microsystem, whether it's doctors and nurses working together, whether they're developing the new retirement system, or they're managing a corporation. They need to understand that they do not automatically become collectively intelligent. It's something you have to work on. So, of course, if all these teams or microsystems all over are so important that I'm trying to show to you now, we of course want them to be intelligent. Actually, we need them to be intelligent. Because if we have intelligent microsystems in our organizations, the organizations become intelligent. And if they become intelligent, well, our whole society becomes more intelligent. But it starts down there. This is nothing we can create from above by, ordering an organization to become intelligent. The intelligence is created in these microsystems of coordination. That's where people prepare, discuss, create, innovate, or not. So I think it's fair to say that, in the normal organizations today, we should be able to expect them to have a plan for how to ensure that their microsystems are intelligent. And as I will come to later, the good news is that all teams can work on this. You can create intelligence within a team. If you want to create intelligent teams, then that's going to take teamwork. It takes teamwork to focus on how to create a good team. I think you all know that it actually just takes one person to ruin good teamwork. So it's a team effort. But if you're going to work on that as a team, you need something to work from, as a common understanding of how teamwork works, right? So that's what we've been focusing on our research on, trying to create a general model for creating collective intelligence. And that model is sort of points out 4 capabilities that creates good teamwork. Capabilities are the reflection capacity or capability of the group, the representation of the group, relation, and integration. And I'm going to explain why it looks like that. And first, maybe I should say, well, this is a model, right? We don't say it's the best or the only or the last one. It's just that it's a model and it's been developed to sort of find the basics of teamwork. And the point with the model is to share it within the group so that the group can work jointly and with their effort to become collectively intelligent. So let's go down to basic. What is group work about? Well, it's about sharing knowledge, or actually it's about integrating knowledge. That's what teams do. And if you think about it in that way, there are actually only 2 ways in which you can integrate knowledge. The first one, and maybe the one we normally think about, is what's also called learning. It's when I have some knowledge, another person has some other knowledge that I don't have, and as we share this, we create, a third knowledge that none of us had. That is part of an efficient team, and that is part of being intelligent. But the other way you can integrate knowledge is by acting as a team. Then that's the opposite. You could say it in a sense that when you learn, you stand in front of each other, looking at each other, and listen, and so on. The other way of integrating knowledge is actually the opposite. You stand with your backs to each other, and I just trust in that my team has this other person with this capacity or this knowledge. And the interesting thing is that when high-performing teams work, they switch between these two different states all the time, and it goes very quickly because it's actually a matter of trust. In the version where you learn, you have to sometimes question each other, right? Because that's part of learning. But in the other way, when you're acting as a team, you just trust in the other person's knowledge. So being prepared as a human being to switch between these states and being able to, by your friends or team members, sometimes being questioned and sometimes just being trusted, that's something that is not that easy for people. So one of the essential things with a group is then, what is a group or what is a collective thing about? And there are, again, just two perspectives on this, but they're also totally different. In the first one, which we call here relation, because that is all about relation, we think about the group. How does the group feel? How does the group work? We talk about and think about the group as an entity in itself. And here the important thing is that a group needs to feel warm. If a group doesn't feel warm, you can say that literally you're closing down access to knowledge in the group, because that's how the human brain works. If we don't feel good within the group, we don't have total access to all our capabilities, our knowledge, and our ideas, and our innovations, and so on. So the group needs to feel warm. It's just as simple as that. That's like a good example on why we mean that all groups in all organizations need to have a plan on how do we make this microsystem or this group feel warm. But now that's only one way of looking at a group. The other way is actually this, integration. Integration is about what each and every individual within the group do or don't do. Because a group can also be seen as the sum of all the actions from all the individuals, right? It is whether a group feels warm or not, it depends on how people behave, how they look at each other, how they talk at each other. And there's, all these thousands of micro moments that sort of forms the feeling of a group. And we need to look at the group from both these perspectives, right? So this is a model. It's quite simple. And the whole point here is that we believe that in all organizations, all companies today, we do so many important things in the form of microsystems and that are dependent on collective intelligence in groups. So we think it's just fair that we all have these plans for how we're going to make sure that our team is not on the low end of that scale, that our team is listening to each other and actually using the knowledge that we have. And we also believe that if organizations have a plan, have a strategy for working with, ensuring that all their microsystems becomes intelligent, well, that will of course result in a much more intelligent organization. And in the end, if we have much more intelligent organizations, we will have a more intelligent society. You could say that everything is built up from these microsystems. But the point is, this is not a thing the organization can do for you. The microsystems and the people that work in them, and they may be working in many different groups at the same time in their workplace, but in all of these cooperative situations, there should be an understanding that it takes skill to work together. And we believe that this plan is a good start, at least, to make sure that people have something to work from. So I hope you find this interesting and relevant and join us in making a more intelligent world. Thank you.